guys, it's Dr. JP, and today we are going to look at the running form of one of my fans. I know some of you have been requesting me to analyze more non-professional runners, so I decided to make this video. I'm actually pretty excited to go through this analysis because unlike professional runners, who do not really have any huge flaws in form, there will be more things we may be able to pick up on as we look at one of my fans run. The tips in this video may be more relatable to you guys and can help you be more aware of your own running mechanics and improve the way you run as well. Now let's get into the analysis. So first, let's go over the context of this clip. We get good footage of him running around the track. During this clip, he runs around a 4:58 min per mile pace. In the context of many runners, this is more of a middle distance pace where it's not a sprint, but not too slow to be considered a light run. Next, let's go over his step rate during this run. During this clip, he presents with a step rate of 180 steps per minute. This rate has been widely considered the optimal rate for top elite runners. However, one should not solely focus on running at this exact step rate. Actually, step rate is much more variable and really depends on the runner, conditioning, and the speed the person is going. For example, for elite long distance runners, you may be seeing an elite runner going at around 170 to 190 steps per minute, depending on the split. Then for sprints, you can see some top elite sprinters reaching 300 steps per minute. Now for this runner, in order to determine whether he could try tweaking his step rate, I'd need to look at more information. Next, I'll be looking at his step length. Based on a few calculations from the pace and step rate, he demonstrates a step length of 1.8 meters. For the context of this run, this is a slightly higher step length than I'd expect. This step length can be influenced by factors like length of the limbs, power generation from the legs as he pushes off the ground, and foot placement as the foot lands. Now, why would someone pay attention to this? Well, research has shown that basically the larger the step length, the more increased likelihood of injury. One of the reasons many people believe this happens is due to overstriding, where one takes too big of a step in front of the body. However, looking at it from another perspective, we know that step length usually increases with faster speeds. And when you run faster, the more force that is applied against the body, which makes sense for the increased rate of injuries. Now, in the context of this runner, how would I determine whether he should actually tweak either his step rate or step length? Well, I'd have to look even closer and look at specific aspects of his form to see if certain modifications may help improve the way he runs. As always, we will start with the foot landing. Here, you can see that he lands on the forefoot on the right side and midfoot on the other. Now, what does this mean? Is one foot landing superior than the other? There is really no conclusive research to say that one landing is better than the other. Now you might ask, why do I point out the type of landing then? Well, it's because the type of landing actually affects the biomechanics involved. For example, when landing on the rear foot, there tends to be less stress on the ankles compared to forefoot landing, whereas landing on the forefoot tends to put less stress on the knees compared to rear foot landing. For midfoot landing, the characteristics are a mix between forefoot and rear foot landing. This is good to know, so one can alter biomechanics if needed to decrease stress on certain joints. What I find more interesting to look at is foot landing relative to the body's center of mass. What I usually tend to look for at this point is whether the runner is overstriding, which is landing too far in front of the body. I put markers from where the foot lands to his estimated center of mass to get a good visual of this. In this case, you can see that the foot lands in front of the body and is slightly overstriding. You can also see this based on the shin angle here. While this is not a severe case, the problem with overstriding is that it puts increased stress on the joints as the foot makes contact on the ground. This could cause increased risk of injury during running. Now, a simple way to address overstriding is to increase step rate by 5 to 10% of the usual rate. This will cause modifications to step rate and step length as we mentioned earlier. By doing so, there will be an increase in step rate and slight decrease in step length, which will allow the runner to maintain the same speed but minimize stress on the joints, especially at the knee. Now, something I typically don't talk about as much is foot landing on the other side. From this footage, you can see that he seems to also present with landing in front of the body, but it's not too far where it would be considered overstriding. I just want to go over this briefly to show the importance of looking at both sides of the body. Next, we will look at the range of foot movement from when the foot first makes contact on the ground to when he pushes off. I placed markers here to see the range of that movement. As I mentioned in previous videos, what I tend to focus on during this frame is hip movement. Based on this footage, you can see that he presents with good hip extension, which may show good utilization of the hips for force production during push-off. Next, we will look at vertical oscillation, which is basically the amount of up and down movement he has as he runs. This is nice to look at, as too much of it can put increased stress on the joints, but could also indicate if he may be pushing off too much from the knees. In this case, while he does present with good utilization of the hips, he seems to also focus on extending the knees all the way, which is typically not needed. This is because the muscle activity to bring the legs into those last 10 to 15 degrees don't really add much force forward and really just increase force directed upward. This is why you see that he has a decent amount of bounce when he runs. Even when you look at most elite runners, you don't see them extend the knees all the way, as this decreases amount of vertical oscillation and most importantly, improves efficiency of movement. Now, we will go to this frame to take a closer look at trunk posture. As you can see, he presents with a decent upright trunk. This may demonstrate good stability of the trunk, as this minimizes energy leakage and optimizes force output from the legs to carry the body forward. Next, we can also take a look at the amount of forward tilt of the whole body. You can see that he has a slight tilt forward, but the measurements may be exaggerated due to the camera angle. This may help slightly with momentum forward, but most importantly, it puts the body in a better position for improved ability to utilize the hips during push-off. Next, we look at the arm movement, specifically shoulder movement. I placed markers to see the range of this movement. You can see that he presents with good shoulder movement during running. This is important as arm swing helps counteract angular forces coming from the legs, which allows him to maintain a straight path when running. Another thing to look at is if the arms cross midline, as this may cause too much rotational movement from the trunk, which may actually throw off your ability to run in a straight line. In this case, even though this isn't a front view, you can tell that his arms don't cross midline. Speaking of the front view, I would have loved to get that footage, as that would give us good information of symmetry of movement and that side-to-side component of running. However, that was not available. Finally, we will look at the head. In this case, he does present with the head slightly upward and not in neutral. It is usually taught to keep the head in a neutral position to not only help stabilize it efficiently during running, but also improve the ability to breathe, which is essential in longer races. While he does not exactly do this, it's not all bad, as it is not far from a neutral position, and he does a decent job of stabilizing the head in that position, as there is no excessive head bogging back and forth from this view. Overall, I think his running form is not bad at all. While he does present with slight overstriding of the right leg, excessive knee straightening during push-off, and a slightly extended head position, he does more things right than wrong. Honestly, the modifications are pretty simple and can be implemented pretty quickly. It will just come down to being consistent. To address these areas, simple ways to do this include increasing step rate by 5 to 10%, focusing on hip extension during push-off and not on straightening out the knees, and just being aware of head position during a run. And that's it for the quick analysis on one of my fans. I hope you found this video useful in becoming more aware of running mechanics, and will hopefully help you tweak and improve the way you run as well. Let me know what you guys thought about this video, and if I should continue to make more analysis videos on amateur runners. Let me hear those thoughts in the comment section below. Also, I'd love to hear more of your suggestions for new videos. I've been loving many of your requests, and as a result, I followed through with those ideas. I'm very thankful for the feedback and your support. And as always, thank you for watching.